I recently got a comment on one of my videos from Edward, who was asking what's my opinion on the best places for each continent for a digital nomad based off my experience, and I'm going to also add in based off the experience of others that I've heard. So let's get into it. So all of these places I've been to except for Tbilisi, Georgia, and I've spent some time at all of them as a digital nomad. I only added Tbilisi in here just to kind of remind myself to talk about how I haven't been to Tbilisi yet, so it may be a very good destination, but I'm just not going to add it to the list. So first up is Vienna, Austria. Honestly, I love Vienna. It is one of my favorite cities in the world, probably my favorite city in Europe for sure. The big downside is there's not a big digital nomad community there. So if that's something that's very important to you, you're not going to like Vienna. But for me, Vienna is S tier. I mean, Vienna is just too livable to be added to any other category. It has some of the best public transit in the world. It's very clean. It's very safe. It's very well connected to the rest of Europe, both in terms of trains, in terms of flights. Honestly, if you're going to anywhere in the region, you could just take a train. They even have night trains. If you want to go to the mountains and do some hiking or mountain biking or skiing, you can easily take a train that's 2, 3, 4 hours away and be back, the next day or even that day if you really wanted to. The weather is amazing in the summer, obviously not so good in the winter, but it depends on what you like. I will say, though, that this is my list on how I rank cities. Most digital nomads that I know would not put Vienna as number one, or I should say in S tier, just because there's not that much of a community there, and a lot of people think there's just not a lot to do there. But it really just depends on what you enjoy. Split, Croatia. I'm not really sure where I'm going to put Split. I might say, just for now, I'll leave it at B until I get to the other ones, add some more context. It's a really good city in the summer. In the winter, it's pretty much dead. So that is a big downside that pretty much half the year it's not really a thing. The big advantage to Split is just how well located it is in the Adriatic to other islands that you can go to. It's pretty close to Dubrovnik. It's pretty close to the Plitvice Lakes, if I can remember the name correctly. The downside, besides the weather, is there's not a ton of people there. It's not a really big city. The public transit is okay, but if you're staying in the city center, down near the Roman ruins there, you really don't even have to take public transit at all, just because everything you want to go to is pretty much within walking distance. For Innsbruck, this is hard. I don't mind being in a city with not a lot of other digital nomads. It doesn't really bother me that much. I kind of stick to myself when it comes to a lot of things anyway. And, if I'm in a certain area, most of the time I'm there for other reasons than just other digital nomads. So Innsbruck for me is going to be B tier, but I know that other people probably wouldn't put it that high because, again, it's just not that much of a community there. But I mean, it's, I think they call it the heart of the Alps, or the capital of the Alps, I think is what it's called. Just a pretty good hiking, skiing, somewhat mountaineering place in the Alps. And it's good all year round. So the summer, I spent 3 months there in the summer of 2018. Been there a couple times since. And, it's just really gorgeous to be able to just take a walk and all of a sudden you're in a high alpine meadow with sheep all around you, and then you go back to work 30 minutes later. It's just a very refreshing place to be in, and I think it's really underrated, honestly. Madeira, Portugal, I'm going to say C tier. I know most people rate that higher. I think Madeira is one of the most beautiful locations that I've ever been to. It's very, very, very gorgeous, but it's not very walkable, and the public transit there is basically non-existent. You have to rent a car for everywhere you go. I personally don't like that. I just prefer to have a place that has a very well-connected public transit network. Madeira is not that place, unfortunately. In the capital, what's the name of the capital? Funchal. In the capital, Funchal. It's very, very, very hilly. Like if you think Lisbon's hilly, go to Funchal and you're going to see it's on the side of a mountain. So it's very beautiful in the sense that you can stay in a place that pretty much always has an ocean view because everything's just stacked like a stadium. But the downside is, there's not much public transit, but if you do want to walk anywhere, you're just walking straight uphill or straight downhill pretty much the entire time. There is a really good nomad community there. And again, I've already said this enough, but it's not that important to me. However, a lot of people go there specifically for the nomad community. And if you do love, surfing, I think they have pretty good surfing there. And if you love hiking or mountain biking, they have some of the best hiking and mountain biking in Europe. And like I said, some of the best views in Europe. I have not scuba dived there, but I've heard the scuba diving is some of the best in Europe. Not that Europe has the best scuba diving in the world, but it's some of the best in Europe. But a big downside is it's just not very well connected. Like you can take flights to, I think, the Azores. You can take flights to mainland Portugal, mainland Spain, probably London, and maybe like Morocco, and that's probably it. But, you know, anything really international, you're pretty much going to have to add an extra 2.5 to 3 hour flight on top of if you want to get anywhere. That just really makes it not very appealing to someone who likes to travel, you know, somewhat frequently. Podgorica, I always mispronounce this one. Podgorica, I think it's how it's pronounced, is D tier for me, easy. They are getting a lot better, and I haven't been there in 3 years, I want to say, but it is probably the worst capital city in Europe. And it is getting better. You know, some cities are going downhill, but it is getting better, so I'll give it that. You know, the people there are very nice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very inexpensive, but it's just not well connected. It's not in the Schengen. It's not in the EU. I don't think it's not in the Schengen. It's not in the EU. They are on the Euro, but there's just not much there. It's just an Eastern European capital. Not a lot to do. Yeah, it's going to be a D tier for me. Zurich, Switzerland. I'm going to say B tier as well, because the big downside is it's obviously very expensive for what you get. And, you know, there's not a lot of young people there. Of course, every city has young people, but it's just not known for that. It's a bunch of bankers, a bunch of kind of more or less boring people. But the city itself is very gorgeous, obviously very well located. You know, you can take trains all over Switzerland, super efficient, super fast. You can take trains up into the mountains and be, you know, hiking with the high alpine sheep again with just, you know, an hour or two train away. Their public transit is really, really good, but the price is a bit expensive. And like I said, it is somewhat boring. But if you want a place to stay for a couple weeks or a month and you're in Switzerland, I would probably choose Zurich, to be honest. Next up is Bansko or Bansko. I always say Bansko, but it depends on where you're from, I think. I'm going to say A tier for Bansko. Honestly, it's one of the better nomad locations I've been to. I haven't been there in a couple years as well. But I mean, it's a ski resort town, so you can ski literally into the town. There's a chairlift that takes you up to the mountain from not the city center, but, you know, within a 10-minute walk from the city center. It's a very, very, very small place, but it is one of the best cities in the world for digital nomads, just for the community there. They have Bansko Nomad Fest. I think I've talked about this before in another video. I'll link it up here. But it's a year-round city. So in the summer, you can do horseback riding, hiking, mountain biking. In the winter, obviously, there's the skiing, the snowboarding. They have snowshoeing as well. There's some hot springs in a town. I can't remember the name of it. It's like a 15-minute drive away. It's not too far. Istanbul, Turkey. You know, I like Istanbul. It's a very unique city. I think it's underrated among a lot of Westerners, at least Americans. I don't know what it is, but they kind of think that Turkey is Syria or Afghanistan when it's closer to, I know they all hate me saying this, but it's closer to Greece than anything else. But I'm going to put Istanbul as a C tier. It's a massive city, and it has a lot of things going for it. Personally, I don't think I could see myself being there for most of the year, half the year, even more than a month. Like, I think it's a good place if you want somewhere in the region to stop over, you know, for like a month layover or something. Like if you're going between Europe and Asia and you just want to stop over and have a place to stay at for a couple weeks or a month, Istanbul's pretty good. You know, you could do Dubai sometime, you could do Istanbul other times because they both are flight hubs. But other than that, weather in the winter is not amazing. The weather in the summer is fairly hot, but it's not like you're really close to, I guess you're somewhat close to good beaches, but they're further in the south of Turkey. But it's a very, very affordable city. Tons of history there, lots of culture, obviously really, really good food there. So there's a lot of good things going for it, but personally, I think it's going to be C tier for me. By the way, I took these screenshots from nomadlist.com. I think they renamed it to nomads.com now. So you can see sort of in the top left corner what Nomad List ranks these as. You can see Zurich, I think it's 551. Maybe that's a 331. Not sure what it is. But Prague's really surprised me. It's either 61 or 81. It's kind of cut off. I can't see. But it was very, very low. And honestly, Prague for me is S tier. It is an amazing, amazing city. It's one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. Yes, you know, the main bridge is very, very touristy. You can't really even walk across it most of the times of the day unless you're there early morning because of the amount of tourists there. It's just shoulder to shoulder, just tourists. But if you get away from that, just a couple blocks away, it's much more calm. It's not really that expensive. It's very clean. It's pretty much Vienna 2.0, except for the bad thing about Prague is that it's not as connected to nature as Vienna is. Vienna, right outside Vienna, you have the Vienna Hills, which is basically the foothills of not Appalachian, but the Alps. But Prague, it's a lot further inland. It's a lot more flat. There are some beautiful, beautiful gardens there, beautiful parks. I think Prague has better gardens and parks than Vienna does. But as far as like wild nature goes, as far as, actually wanting to go mountain biking or hiking or something active like that, Prague is not that amazing. However, Prague is a much bigger nomad destination than Vienna is. And I'm honestly surprised that Nomad List put both of these so high. I mean, this is a 3-digit number. I can't tell what it is. Vienna is way better than that. I don't know why people don't go to Vienna more. Like, you can still rent an apartment in a really good side of town in Vienna for 800 euros a month. But good luck doing that anywhere near a kind of shitty side of town in Lisbon, which is, we'll get to it in a second. But yeah, Prague, amazing city, definitely S tier for me. For Warsaw, Poland, I'm having a hard time where I would rank this one. I think it's going to be B as well, even though I know I already have 3 cities at B. It's a really clean city. It's very safe. It's pretty well connected. It's not too expensive. But there's not a lot to do there. And I know I've said that about Vienna and Prague, but Vienna and Prague are just massive cities with at least more things that I like doing in those cities versus Warsaw. It's just, it kind of feels empty. I think it's because the city was destroyed for the most part. It was during World War II. While they were retreating, they blew up a lot of the city. So a lot of it's rebuilt and a lot of it's modern and new now. It's very interesting. If you go there, it's kind of very Americanized. I didn't really like that so much. I don't think America really has very good city design. So I'm going to leave this at B tier. Budapest, Hungary. Budapest, should it be A or B? There's a good nomad community in Budapest. It is an up-and-coming city. It's very safe as well. The architecture is very, very, very gorgeous. But it's a small capital. And so for me, I like to either be in the country with skiing or mountain biking or with, skiing or scuba diving or something like that, or I like being in a city. And if I want to be in the city, I want to be in a big city. And Budapest is just not that big of a city. It's kind of like Warsaw, but it's just smaller in that regard that it's not a large city. And, it's still Eastern Europe. So the architecture is just not there that you would get in a place like Prague or Vienna. So I'm going to leave that B tier as well. Well, Lisbon, I would say, is an A tier. It would be S, but the city is just sort of, it's going through, you could call it growing pains maybe. It's pretty dirty compared to Vienna or Prague. It's remarkably dirty. It has this charm. It's a beautiful city in its own way. It's right along the water. You have the beach not too far away. Just to the south, you have some gorgeous beaches as well that you can do coasteering or you can do scuba diving or snorkeling at, free diving. And obviously the nomad community there is just amazing. But just because the prices are so high right now for what you get, it's kind of amazing. You'll see a $500,000 or €500,000 apartment that's a tiny 40 square meter, barely even 1 bedroom, or just a studio for €500,000. And it's just way, way overpriced in my opinion. So for that reason and just how dirty it is, it's not that efficient in terms of the public transit that's there, and anywhere that you do want to walk, you're walking up and down hills. I'm going to put it in A tier rather than S. I'm not trying to make it sound like a bad city. It's not. It's still A tier. There's a lot of good things going for it. It has some amazing restaurants, amazing cafes. The people are very nice. There are a lot of other nomads there. So it has a lot of good things going for it, but it's just some of those downsides are going to prevent it from being an S tier. Porto. I personally don't really like Porto that much. Now, I haven't been there in 3 years, so I'm going to go with C tier. I know some people really like Porto, and some people like Porto more than Lisbon. To me, they're not even close. I don't really know why. I think it's just the style of the city, just the vibe. It's more dirty than Lisbon, and it's just not as big. So it seems more cons, but not as many pros. There's not as many nomads there. The weather's not as good. Of course, it's all relative to what you like, but it's more cloudy. It's a little bit cooler than Lisbon. Of course, that pays off in the summer. But when I was there, I think there in July and August, and it was pretty cool even in the summer. So cool that I didn't really even want to go to the ocean, but it was just too kind of too just dreary there. It might have just been the time I was there. I'm not sure, but there is a nomad community there, and I know some people really love it, but for me, it's just a C tier for me. Kotor, Montenegro. This one's difficult because I want to put it at C tier, but at the same time, I don't think I personally consider it as good as Split or some of these other cities that are in B tier. So I'm going to drop it to C tier. It's a very, very small city in Montenegro. It's very, very gorgeous. There's not a lot of people there. If you want to just get away from, the chaos of the world or something, it's a great place to go to. I was there towards the end of COVID, and, I rented a whole house that overlooked the water, and no one bothered me. It was just so peaceful. I just flew from JFK and had to deal with all of that nightmare, people yelling at me, and this a mess. And then we landed, got to Kotor, and just watched the locals with their sailboats, just so peaceful and quiet. The restaurants are really good, some amazing seafood, really, really good octopus that's there. I've talked about Montenegro before, so I'll link the video up here as well. But yeah, if you want a place that just get away for a month or two, have your own secluded house that you rent, maybe overlooking the ocean. It's pretty inexpensive to do that, but it's not like there are a lot of people there. So that's a pro and a con depending on what you're looking for. And it's not very well connected. So that's kind of why it's C tier versus B. Bratislava. I personally don't really like Bratislava, so I'm going to go with D tier as well. The castle that's there up on the hill, I don't remember the name of it, is very gorgeous. One of the most beautiful castles I've seen, especially in that region. But the city is just so small. There's nothing that goes on there. I mean, even the locals will tell you there's just nothing that goes on here. The good thing is you're like a 45 or 50-minute train ride from Vienna away. So if you did stay there, you could probably do weekend trips to Vienna all the time. But I mean, why not just stay in Vienna at that point? Chamonix, France. This, I'm going to say B tier. The downside of it not being an A tier is just how expensive it is to rent there. Also the downside, there's just a lot of tourists there. So if you are okay with dealing with tourists kind of all the time everywhere, then it's going to be a good city for you. If not, I wouldn't go there. But there's a reason why the tourists there. It's an amazing city. It's gorgeous. Like you are at, I want to say 1,000 meters or maybe 2,000 meters at the base. But then the mountains above or around the city there go to 4,000 meters, something like that, 4,500 meters, something like that. And so they're just towering above you, and you can take the gondola up to multiple different mountains in the region. And as you take the gondola up, you're going through multiple different types of microclimates. You go through one layer of clouds, and then you'll go higher, and then now you can see it's kind of alpine, and there's just rocks everywhere. And then you go even higher than that through another layer of clouds. Then you just see there's ice and glacier, and there's nothing. It looks like you're on the moon. And all of this is accessible within, 30 minutes gondola from Chamonix, something like that. It's pretty well connected. It's maybe an hour train, an hour bus ride away from Geneva. But the downside is it's very expensive for what you get. So, if you're looking for just somewhere in the Alps, maybe not Chamonix would be the place. I would just choose maybe Innsbruck or something like that, because you're still going to get most of what you get in Chamonix. It's just less expensive and more of a city, versus Chamonix is pretty much just a mountaineering town. Salzburg, Austria. I'm going to go with a C tier. It's a nice place, but it's really just a tourist destination. I mean, if you're in the tourist area, it's, very beautiful architecture, amazing castle that's there, really close to the Alps, all that kind of stuff. But the prices are really expensive because all the tourists are going through there. There's really not that much to do. If you want to do anything in the mountains, I would just go to Innsbruck instead. Okay, up next is Berlin, Germany. I'm going to put Berlin as C tier. It's just not my style. I like it for just a weekend or something, but I don't really know if I'd spend that much time there. I would just much rather be in Prague or Vienna or Lisbon. Last one, because I'm going to skip Tbilisi, because like I said, I've never been there. I just know it's listed so high. Last one is Dubrovnik. I'm not sure why it's added in here twice. I'm going to say Dubrovnik is B. I know I've added everything to B, I feel like, but I just want to really hold the A and S tiers off to cities that I really, really like. And I love Dubrovnik. It's, a beautiful city. The beaches, water, the people, the food, it's all great. The downside is it's very touristy, especially in the summer. You can stay in sort of I think it's the northern side of the city, and it's much more chill, and it's so many more locals are there. But I would rather just be in split Croatia, even though I know I ranked them at both B tier. But that's just my personal preference. So what do you guys think? I don't know. I feel like I put way too many cities in B tier and maybe C tier as well. I feel like I should have spread them out a bit more. But honestly, this is pretty much what I think. It really also depends on, what do I feel like in the moment? It's kind of like asking someone, do you like oranges or apples better? It's like, well, do I like cities, or do I like nature, or do I like beaches, or like mountains? Or it's like, it depends on what I want in that moment. Because honestly, Madeira and Prague, for example, are completely different places. If I want nature, I'm definitely going to go to Madeira over Prague. But if I want a place that's actually livable for a digital nomad for a somewhat extended period of time, I'm choosing Prague, hands down. But let me know if you guys disagree. Let me know if there's any other cities I should do in Europe. I skipped a bunch that I've been to just because this video is so long as it is already. I'm going to probably do Asia, maybe not the next video, but it will be another video that I do with this F to S tier rating. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to follow me on my 9th year of digital nomading while I buy and build businesses that fund my lifestyle.